talk about music for 7 minutes.
Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and I truly am delighted to be joined once again by John Paul Mason. It's been a few weeks since you and I joined one another on the show and got a catch-up on all things Celtic, but that's what we're going to do today. JP, you have that Sporting Lisbon jersey behind you. What era was that from then? Because some of the jerseys, I saw one yesterday, actually, Celtic Curio shared, the jersey after our centenary one. So we wore it 89-90, and it was a bit of a departure in that there was a button-down collar and there was like a zigzag kind of pattern on the green hoops. It's a jersey that Paul Elliott wore when he was at Celtic, and Sporting Lisbon had virtually the same jersey in the same season. And George Cadet actually wore that version of the Sporting Lisbon jersey when he was over there. So I've always loved the hoops of Sporting Lisbon. Which era is that one from?
I think it's from 2018. I was there. I was in Lisbon in 2018, and always try and pick up a top when I can. If I'm in a city or on holiday or whatever, just try and get a strip as a memento. And I saw that, and I was like, that's not staying in the shop. I'm taking that home. It's too cool. Everything about it, even the collar. I don't really like the collar in that new Celtic top, and a few folk have said that now. Third one.
Yeah.
Why is it like so wide and massive?
It's like there's templates for Adidas training gear, which is the same collar design, and I think that's what puts me off. You need to have that differentiation between that's a training shirt, that's a jersey that we're actually going to wear, and it will become part of Celtic history. That's why people say to me all the time, I was getting this yesterday actually because we were recording This Is Acsom, and Jim Orr was on it this week with me and Phil Differ, and he's talking about, it doesn't really matter. And I'm like, well, the minute a Celtic player wears a jersey on a park in a game of football, you have created Celtic history. There's images of that. It's in the history books, and that's why, for me, that it is important. And that's why we always labour it. And we're going to probably park the launch with Bobby Gillespie of Primal Scream fame till the end of the show, JP, because there's no way we're going to get through this without talking about that. I want to focus, though, on the 4 friendlies we've had so far. 2 of them I was away and I watched from afar, watched them on Celtic TV. And then these 2, although I was watching them on Celtic TV, I covered them, the 2 games in Portugal. And that was our best opponent by a distance, I think, last night. And it was the best performance by Celtic as well. Did you get a chance to watch it?
I didn't know, unfortunately, and I don't want to be considered not a true Celtic fan or anything like that, but the stream that I tried to get was not playing ball. So it kind of ties in with the whole complaining about paying for a ticket on Saturday. Like I want to pay for a ticket on Saturday to see my team in the flesh. Do you know what I mean? I still get this gripe about the fact that it's not in the season ticket, but it feels like those days are long gone. This isn't a new thing. And I certainly wouldn't just dig my heels in when I can get a bus outside my flat to go to Celtic Park. Like last night, I'm struggling to watch a stream, and then I don't pay for Celtic TV. I don't have a shady stick that allows you to get everything for 50 quid a year. Maybe I should get one. I don't know. Maybe there'll be people in the comments being like, why have you not got one? Everyone else has got one. But I don't have that. So no, I didn't get to see it. I saw a highlights package, a 5-minute highlights package, and I saw the second goal, which I thought was brilliant. A really good move that led to the second goal. Obviously saw the penalty, but they didn't really, in the 5 minutes I watched, they didn't really give you a lot else to chew on. But the things that I've read about it, Nygren seems to sound like he's a player, which you kind of hoped he would be. And I'm frustrated. I also want to see Kieran Tierney play for Celtic on Saturday.
Absolutely.
It might be a bit of an emotional kind of pull, but yeah, it's his first game back at Celtic Park.
As long as it's not a hamstring pull.
Well,
the emotional side of it I can handle. Listen, loads of bits that you've spoken about. Actually, when we're talking through this, JP, we'll do it in such a way where you'll still be able to have your opinion on it, because I'll give you the lowdown on what happened last night, as will many of the commenters. By the way, I mentioned this last night. For anyone who does subscribe to Celtic TV, you'll have a wee look in your inbox because they've cancelled the payment system that you use. I don't know what's happening with the platform. I don't know if there's big changes. You're going to have to go back in and basically resubscribe. So that came through yesterday. And I thought to myself, right, I'm going to have to do this before the game. Thankfully not. But you will have to do it before the Newcastle game if you want to tune in. I simply purchase Celtic TV, JP, because sometimes I have to watch the game back, especially if we're doing fan zones. And I need to take notes so that I can have an opinion about performances, and I take notes, and people will think that's boring, but that's the only way that I can analyse a game, really. If I'm at a game myself, I'm just there. It's sheer enjoyment. I'm just enjoying the moment. I'm not analysing the performance. Whereas when I'm watching it on the box, I am analysing it. So that's what I do when I'm covering the games, and I did it last night. And I decided to run with the tagline around Nygren, actually, right? Because I think it ties in quite a bit with what's happening with recruitment, which is always the hot topic during the summer transfer window. Of course it is. But also some of the comments that Rodgers is making when he's asked the questions about recruitment. Nygren, 1.7 million quid. I'm looking at him thinking to myself, right, he's no damaged goods. It's not like he's went away somewhere after having a promising, prodigious rise as an early player, JP, and then he's fallen off a cliff and we can pick him up. So I'm looking at him going, right, so what's the deal here? How can we get a player for £1.7 million who's a Swedish cap, who's scored at international level, who's only 23 and who's got 200 games of senior football under his belt? What's the catch? That's the thing that I'm thinking. Or is it just particularly good scouting? So I'm the first to criticise a recruitment team and all that kind of stuff, but I think they've got a gem. Now, we're going to be talking a lot in the next 50 minutes or so about club signings versus manager signings. Now, Brendan Rodgers is using this language, JP. He's talking about...
That's concerning.
This is a concern. And you look at Nygren, you think, right, so what does Brendan Rodgers know about the Swedish, the Danish, because he's played in Dutch football as well. What does he know about these markets? Probably not a great deal. So he's relying on his scouting team. And we've identified him probably by using the recruitment data systems that are available to any club, if you want to buy them and subscribe to them. And then we've scouted them, and the scouting reports, this is a guy that can do a job for us. And what I was a wee bit confused about when we signed him is, what's his best position here? Because we're crying out for wingers at the moment. That's another thing we'll talk about. Yet, the two games he's played, JP, in particular last night, he's playing in a central midfield role. He's creative. He runs at defenders. He makes the defence, the line splitting runs. He does that from a kind of deep midfield position into an attacking position. And he's confident. He's aggressive. And this is a thing that I think is the reason why our three big signings from last year are suffering. There's a lack of aggression in Engels, in Ida, and also in Trusty. This guy's got it. Not in so far as you're seeing him slide tackling left, right and centre, JP, but he's got an aggressive running style. He's up at the referees, giving them, constantly during the game last night. And I'll tell you something right now, and I'm Engels' biggest fan. I've championed him for 12 months, right? Nygren gets in my starting 11, and I've only seen him in two bounce games in Portugal. That's how good he is so far.
Well, the thing is, it's not really about, you and I both know that it's not really about 11 players. Like, we're going to need a really strong squad. We're going to need to be able to rotate. We know that you can lose a Hatate to injury, and then you're down to not bare bones, but you're down to who's going in instead of Hatate. I actually thought Hatate was going to be gone this summer. It's now looking... It doesn't seem that way, does it? It doesn't. The chat that's been coming out. Well, certainly, I think I read a snippet of an interview with him where he was talking about going full force for this season ahead of the World Cup, and he was talking about his career in the sense that in the next World Cup, when it comes round, I'll be, what did he say, 30, 33, 30? Is it 30? Is he 20?
What is he now? He's 28 at the moment, isn't he?
Aye, so 32, 33 he'll be, and he didn't know whether he would have a chance of getting into the squad. So having another option that's a really high quality option where he's someone that's considered a starter. I remember we were talking last season where you're bringing guys off the bench who otherwise are starters, like when Scales and Taylor were coming off the bench, and you're like, well, we've actually got a strong squad. It didn't always feel like that last season, and certainly this season we've lost some players that weren't really anywhere near the first team, but it thins down the squad to the point that what you're left with has to be quality. And by the sounds of it, I haven't seen him with my own eyes yet. And again, another reason why I want to go on Saturday, and I'm not employed by Celtic to try and sell tickets for Saturday. I don't even know how many it's on. I looked at tickets earlier on, and didn't seem to be that many left. Because this is the type of opportunity where you want to try and go with a mate that you didn't normally get to see at the games, So I was thinking about that. So there's a number of reasons why I want to go on Saturday. And yes, I'm frustrated that it's not on my season ticket. Been a season ticket holder combined for 20 years. And in the majority of those years, you did get an early round of a European competition qualifier and a friendly as part of your season ticket. And yes, I'm annoyed that you don't get it, but it's not going to make me sit in my house on Saturday or, go to the park or something like that on Saturday, because I would be like, I want to be at the Celtic game because I'm a Celtic supporter. And somebody mentioned a couple of weeks ago when I said something like, I'm not going to Ireland. I didn't mean I'm not going to Ireland as in, I wouldn't go to Ireland. I wouldn't go to Ireland. I don't have that money. I'm not Paul the Tim. I don't want to be sitting eating jelly pieces in my flat because I can't afford to get food. Do you know what I mean? I can't afford to go to Ireland. A trip to Ireland.
By the way, you're not suggesting for a minute that's what Paul the Tim's diet consists of.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm not criticising his diet, but he must have some amount of cash to be able to go and do that. That's unbelievable.
It's his entire life. And we know a few. I think we all know a few people like that.
Absolutely, and I'm not criticising it, but I don't have that spare amount of cash to just be like, I'm away to Ireland for a pre-season friendly, drop 500-600 quid on accommodation and flights and bevy and all the rest of it. I'm keeping that money in reserve for a Champions League game that I want to go to. You know what I mean? Because I'll pick and choose what I go to because I can't go to everything. I would love to go to everything. I would have loved to have been in Lisbon, swanning around the Estadio Nacional and, seeing the players and getting their pictures taken in the Estadio Nacional. But I don't have that money. And therefore, there's a game along the road that's 25 quid. Why would I not go to that?
Well, there's a couple of points here, JP. The first one being, hopefully, and this is an ambition of mine on a Celtic State of Mind, hopefully, as Acsom, we will do things like that. We will go, right, we're playing in Ireland, let's go. And we'll do it from the perspective of obviously going to watch the game, but also, tying in with some of the CSCs in and around that area, speaking to some of the fans here, doing some kind of form of content, maybe live broadcasting as well from the hotel. So that's probably the only way that, on a personal level, I could do that. That's probably I would need to work it into some kind of business proposal where I'm able to finance it that way. So, no, absolutely. And by the way, Paul the Tim and guys like that who are unbelievable in terms of their dedication. I remember bouncing about some square somewhere in Europe, and there he is, this Paul, and people are getting the selfies in that room. And then we did a few gigs, and every gig there he is. He's up, he's speaking, and that level of dedication is incredible. But as you say, everybody's situation is different, and that's why I don't like being told you've got to boycott this, you've got to boycott that. And at the moment, we're talking about. I've heard that vibe about merchandise. I've also heard it about friendly games that aren't on the season ticket, and I've heard it on.
Just don't buy the merchandise. I see stuff and I go, that's quite cool, but I've not got a spare 80 quid to just drop on that right now. I as well as anybody that I like buying Celtic stuff, but that new Celtic kit came out. I was like, right, yes, maybe the one that everyone hates, the white one. I kind of like it. I'm not against it, but I'm not just going to go out and just buy it like a robot because I'm a Celtic fan. I should buy merch. Maybe we'll get it somewhere down the line, but it's not
priorities. It's priorities. It's choices. And the thing with the merch, I'm going to ask. We'll get back into the point I was making there, but in terms of the merchandise, there's been a lot of releases, and all I'm going to ask you, I'm not going to go through every single one. I'm just going to ask you if you were to pick one of these. Which one would it be, right? So I'm going to bring up, this was a blog that Liam wrote in relation to the fact that we can have great merchandise and we can have great kits and great launches and everything, but we could also have great recruitment and a great youth development team and a great communication and a great media side of things. So there, you'll see snippets of them. So on the left-hand side, you've got the new hoops, followed by that kit you've just discussed there. It's like the inside out. dish towel, pair of pajamas, whatever it is. And then we've got, that's the third kit. And then we've got that warm-up one that I've got loads of stick for because I like it.
I like it too.
I really, really like it. And then you've got the US one, which if it wasn't a buttoned up top, it would look like a cracker of a jersey. And then we've got the throwback to the 90s. Obviously, we'll talk about Henrik and Bobby Gillespie, etc., which is the official away jersey. So we've got 5, and they've got all the training stuff and all that. If you were to choose one of those 5, JP, right? And I know it depends, because you might say, well, where am I going? Am I going to the game, or am I going to transmit? I mean, what's the circumstances? What's your favourite from those 5 that are on the screen now?
Oh, I mean, the one that I've bought, the hoops. I bought the hoops straight away as soon as it was released, to get it without the sponsor. I mean, that's the big hook for me always, because I like it no sponsor. And if you don't get it early, then the chances are you might not get it without a sponsor, because the popular kits without a sponsor sell out. You couldn't get the camo kit in a large towards the end of the last season without a sponsor. And I didn't get it at the time because I didn't have the money at the time, and therefore I now don't have that top. And if I want to get it, I'd probably need to buy it on eBay or Vinted or something like that. But no, the home top would be always the one that I would get before any others. Before you get Gallus and start buying the other ones.
The warm-up jersey, the warm-down jersey, the American one, and so on and so forth. But some of the points, again, that you're making in relation to the season ticket, things change, and then they become normalised, and then a generation later, nobody remembers when it was different, right?
Yeah.
So with a season ticket, the way that I kind of view it now, JP, is that, right, okay, you're a season ticket holder now. That needs to change in terms of what does that mean for the person who invests, because that huge transfer money that comes in at the beginning of the season is massive in terms of the planning of the football club. You know, that's incredible. That's up there, right? We know what we're getting from Adidas. We know what we're getting from the sponsor. We know what we're getting from the season tickets. And then we can actually build our annual kind of plans around it. Mm-hmm. But what they should be doing is they should be saying, right, well, there's JP, he's a season ticket holder, and he wants to buy 1, 2, 3, whatever it is, tops or garments during the season. You get a discount in the Celtic shop, JP, because you've invested in the football club. Mm-hmm. Or instead of scratching about for a stream, how about we give you a discount code for Celtic TV, and it makes it worthwhile. And you know what I mean? So it's almost like you're buying a package. And to begin with, maybe it's a package of discounts, and maybe eventually the whole price combines some of these other things. Because we've all worked for companies, mate, where you look at the benefit package of working for a business. And I know we don't work for Celtic, but we invest. We don't invest enough to be high shareholders or whatever, but we invest as fans. You know, we invest at that level.
The amount of money that I'm spending on a season ticket is a significant chunk out of my earnings. Without a doubt. I mean, it's close to £800 now for my season ticket. Mm-hmm. That's mental. Like, and I would never have thought that years ago when I was getting a season ticket for £350 that one day in my lifetime, not too far in the future, it would be close to £800 for that. So, like you said, that some sort of discount option. Like, I'm pretty sure you used to be able to use your season card for some sort of discount in the Celtic shop, unless I've made that up and created that as a myth in my head, but I could have sworn that you used to be able to get that. And
I remember they didn't. I mean,
do you not get points? You used to get points.
Well, that's the thing.
Is that a myth that I've created in my head? Somebody, hopefully,
how easy is it? You know, there's somebody who every single time they go to the game, they pop in and they buy something from the Celtic shop. So, like the club card points, absolutely, all that stuff, these loyalty, for want of a better word, point systems, and allowing you to then use that for tours, for example. Because like you say there, I see the Newcastle game as an opportunity, actually, and unfortunately, I've not got any coverage for the Acsom bulletin, but I've seen it as an opportunity, and I bought tickets for members of my family. I'm talking nieces and nephews who don't ordinarily go to the games because they don't even live in the area, really. So there's a whole tribe of them going. And when I had a look at the tickets when I was purchasing them first time round, I had a look and I was like, oh, there's hardly any tickets left. But then somebody pointed out they've only released the bottom tier. I thought, right, that makes sense. But then when I've gone back and actually purchased them, it was a top tier. And there was maybe half a dozen sections with some tickets in them. But it looks as though you're probably looking 40,000 plus. Apparently 10,000 Newcastle fans are travelling to the game. So there'll be a massive turnout. And this is what I'm talking about. If they take that from the season ticket, JP, right, and they think, you know what, there's enough tourist fans like the ones that I'm getting tickets for, that's what they are, they don't go every week, then, and they get 40,000 plus, then they'll say, actually, we were right, we've priced it right, we've got the right opponents because this is a success. And then it becomes more and more of a difficult argument to say that should be on the season ticket. We'll still think it should be, but the club will, from a business perspective, say, nah, it works. Look, they still buy the tickets. And that's a frustration.
Even if you said that it wasn't on the season ticket, why not a discounted option for a season ticket holder? Season ticket holders are able to buy the tickets at 15 instead of 25 or something like that, like a happy medium. But like, I was listening to the Celtic Exchange podcast the other day, and they were kind of going, like, even interviews are now behind paywalls on Celtic TV. Like, that's poor. Like,
I know.
Like, so Kieran Tierney's interview coming back to Celtic, you can't see it because you've not got Celtic TV. Like,
strange decision that.
To put that behind a paywall is poor, and all the stuff that gets put behind paywalls really, with regards to Celtic, especially as a season ticket holder as well. Like, I'd never even thought about you saying, as a season ticket holder, you'd maybe get a discount on Celtic TV or something like that. It's just all these things like add up, like all the streaming services and everything else, like having to pay for Premier Sports, having to pay for Via, like, I don't know if it is Viaplay anymore, but there's you could add up all the things that you pay for with regards to subscription, and you're into like close to like £100 or whatever. Like, I was still paying for Premier Sports, and it was something like £17 or £18 a month, and I was like, what am I doing? I don't watch that. I watch it for Celtic games when they're on once in a blue moon, but I just cancelled it because it's just hemorrhaging money from your account.
I think it's easier to justify some of the, because what I've said last week actually, JP, is that actually in if you look at it in isolation, the merchandise thing's working really, really, I mean, they're doing it so well and so slickly, but we're focusing on the fact that, but you never speak to us. The only time we get an email is when you're pushing another jersey. We never get a discount. So you've got to get everything else right so that the focus isn't on all you want is money. And I think, like, with in terms of the engagement side of things, your channel is your portal to your fan base, right? So don't put that behind a paywall. I mean, in terms of what you're actually making by putting it behind a paywall as well, it's like added value. You've got to like have enough things out there that are free, accessible by your entire global fan base, so that you get the buy-in, so that we actually feel like a part of a community. And that's what content creation is all about. I'm up to my knees in content creation every single day, 365 days a year. Even when I'm on holiday, I've got to take a laptop. And when I'm working, I've always got something in the background, be that a YouTube channel, a podcast, whatever it is, always studying what works and what doesn't work, JP. The football club are big enough that we don't have to be putting YouTube content or Celtic TV content behind a paywall. It needs to be free. It absolutely needs to be free. We stream every single day, every day, right? Weekday, every game. And by the way, the club doesn't even do that in terms of a studio analysis at halftime, pre-match, post-match, which I think is scandalous. That should, if you're paying for a product, I don't want to see a thumbnail, a stationary thumbnail with some playlist on the background. That's not content. And then it kicks off, and you get the commentary team who are not at the game. They're somewhere else remotely. They're not at the game. They're watching it on Celtic TV as well, unless it's at home, right? So all the games we are watching at the moment, all these away games, you know, the commentary team's not there. They're not getting beads of sweat running down there because they're in Scotland somewhere watching it, right? And then at half time, the analysis doesn't exist. They're putting replays of Celtic TV podcasts on at half time. There's no post-match reaction. And see that compared to the advert for the kit. I'm turning into a morning-faced Celtic da right now, right? The Celtic kit launch was different gravy. It was a completely different level from the content creation that we're paying for.
It was like Netflix versus BBC Alba or something like that, wasn't it? It was just it's an amazing advert. I'm sure we'll talk about it, but no, just going back to and again, there's also been a lot of gripes about, you know, I saw an article that had been created, like Celtic fans in rage at new launch. You know, like, where's the signings? I'm not quite at the set everything on fire moment in terms of the lack of signings or whatever, because I think it's still reasonably early in the transfer window to not be really concerned, because things need to move around. We've just sold Kuhn. Yes, in a perfect world, you would have thought that we've got somebody else lined up, or a couple of players lined up to spend the Kuhn money on straight away, but that doesn't always happen. It'll be a different story if we get to the Champions League qualifier and we don't have the right weaponry in for that game, for those games, because those are the games that are huge at this early point in the season. And again, the other thing is are we doing the classic wait until we get into the Champions League and then spend money? Because that's
my worry. That's my worry, JP. I'm going to bring in comments, and I need to. I've gone through every range of emotions in the 8 years that we've been doing the Celtic State of Mind, but I've settled on not allowing negativity, just not allowing it any kind of headspace, JP, right? So if somebody just comes in and is negative on the socials, I just don't engage with that. But then if somebody comes in and says something that is, factually incorrect, I'll respond to it just to say, actually, this is what it is.
I don't think we're generating negativity by what we're saying.
No.
People feel this way with regards to it because it's quite pertinent, I think, to be talking about it.
It's not like everything's sailing nice and fine and everything's in a good rhythm and you and I are basically just coming in to cause a problem. We're absolutely not throwing people overboard and all that. This is me looking at Celtic content, Celtic social media, talking to people within the Acsom group, talking to Celtic fans in the wider group. And so a lot of unhappy Celtic fans in relation to some of the points we're talking about. And in relation to that, we go back to the last time we had a qualifier, Ange Postecoglou's first season, Midtjylland, you had the countdown board, and you ask yourself, well, what's changed in terms of being prepared for this? Is it too much to ask to have a group of 16 to 18 players, JP, that any of them you would be confident with? Any of the 16 to 18 players, you would be confident with them going into a Champions League game? We're never there. We're never at that luxurious stage, are we?
No.
And that's a frustration as well.
No, that seems like some sort of promised land, doesn't it? That like we've kind of hovered around it at times, but it's never been, especially when it comes to, we've not had, when was the last time to negotiate a qualifier? The Mitchell
and Angie's first season, yeah.
We've basically got straight into the Champions League every season since then.
Three seasons on a bounce, yeah.
Yeah, so this is the first time, and I actually, this is pathetic, but I actually spent a bit of time on the way back from Manchester last week going into detail, very much detail on all the possibilities of opponents and figuring out how big their stadiums are, how to get there as well. I've got written in my notes on my phone opponents. Right?
I love that. Look at the level of detail in that. That's brilliant.
Well, I mean, people probably have done this for ages, and I've just never actually thought about it. But I mean, I was like I spent about an hour and a half on the train, just like going through. Like, how do you get there? How do you get there? Well, that's a hard place to get to. They've got a tiny stadium, so like Sturm Graz, 16,000 capacity stadium. What are the chances of getting a ticket for that game? Probably not much. FC Bau, 38,000 capacity stadium. Lech Poznan, 42,000.
Isn't that where Palma might be going? Lech Poznan on loan?
Well,
yeah, hopefully he doesn't come back to haunt us.
like that back. FCSB, I guess that's Stoya Bucharest. Their stadium's 55,634. Slovan Bratislava, 22,500. And Rijeka is 8,279. So there's varying degrees of stadium size there, and then the flights are, some of them you need to go around the houses a little bit, but most of them you can get direct.
Right. So having done all that, you've done all the legwork. I'm going to ask you a question around it. Who do you want? And because it's all about just getting through. So from the opponents you've looked at, JP, who do you fancy for us to get through here?
Probably Bucharest, well, I mean, if you're talking about going on the trip, then there's obviously stadiums where you're like, well, we'll definitely get a ticket for that, or you'd think you'd get a ticket for that. But in terms of the opposition, I definitely want to avoid I definitely want to avoid Bow, just because I've got a feeling they're quite maybe into their season already. Anybody that's in their season already is somebody that you don't want to be hitting up, because that's when you can get caught cold, as we have been before. Malmo, for example. So is Rijeka, are they? I can't remember what nationality they are. Need to look them up. But anybody that's in their season already, that's who you want to avoid, because they've got a head start on you straight away.
Yeah.
And that's usually the thing that slips us up. But I just really hope that the club aren't taking this as a kind of, we'll get through. It'll be fine. You know, we've got a good enough team. And have they done more analysis on all those opponents and been like, and actually gone into depth on the quality of the team, and then just sort of made the decision that we'll be able to get away with it? Like that, it can't be the case if that is the way they're thinking. Because
it simply cannot, JP, because I'm looking at the squad right now, and the example I gave was, right, last season the left back was an issue for us, right? So Greg Taylor was your first choice. We brought in Jeffrey Sloop. We tried to buy Kieran Tierney in January. It didn't happen. And we had Alex Baye for a few months before he went away to Como, right? So that was an issue. Every single left back we had last season is gone. Every one of them. Every single left back that played for Celtic last season is no longer at a football club. And we brought in Kieran Tierney, and we're all like, absolutely brilliant. Can't wait to see him, like you say, in the flesh. Kieran Tierney's back. That's a fantastic signing. But moving into that game, and it's a point I made the other day, the qualifier, JP, Kieran Tierney might get a pull at training. He might be ill. Who do you play? So at this moment in time, you're playing Inamura, right? And this is where things get a bit, worrying. And it's not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater and everything else, because we had a decent season last year. It wasn't perfect. We had a decent season. We progressed in Europe, and you want to build on it. So from that team that did the business in Europe, we've lost Kyogo, but he never played the kind of games post Young Boys. We've lost Kuhn, who played a massive part in that run, a huge part right in that run, right up to the very end. And we've lost Taylor. Now, a lot of people will say, I was never European class. He played most of the games over the last few seasons, and the last 3 seasons in the Champions League groups, or league stages as it's now called. So that's my concern, because every season I'm looking at the squad thinking, how many players do we have that I'm confident with going into a Champions League group game? Never mind a qualifier, right? And I would say that we've got less players than we had last season. And that is a concern due to the fact that we've lost Kyogo, we've lost Kuhn, and we've lost Taylor. Was he Champions League level? Well, we've replaced him with KT, who definitely is. We've brought in a player in Nygren who, so far, I'm trying to temper my enthusiasm here, JP, looks really, really good. But he's strengthening the midfield. He's playing in midfield. He's not playing on the wing. Even though he can, he's not playing on the wing. But the midfield was one of the strongest areas of the park. We did have guys like McCowan and Bernardo not getting much game time. 2 players who I think are decent, particularly Bernardo. I'm a fan of Bernardo. We now have 3 guys with a jersey, but with 6 midfielders vying for those first team places. So we've actually strengthened an area that I don't think was a priority. Nygren's a great sign. I'm glad we've got him. The creativity and all that was lacking last season, I think he's going to bring it. But you're looking at the wings, lacking. You're looking at the central centre forward position, lacking. Left side of central defence, lacking. There's a lot of holes there, JP. And the thing with that as well, with regards to the qualifier, bring them in, absolutely. But you need to bed them in. You need to get them game time. You need to get them into the rhythm of the play, the style that they play, that Brendan Rodgers wants. And there's still, for me, big question marks about those positions. Centre forward, right and left wing, because the likes of Palmer, Tillio, Yang might all leave the building, right? And it leaves you with James Forrest on the right. It leaves you with Dyson Maida on the left. And it leaves you with who else? Who else can play there? You're then asking Nygren maybe to play on the wing. So this isn't about being negative. This is about looking at it and saying, I want the best opportunity to progress in Europe. How do you do that? Right. So last season, I thought we had 6 European level players. And I always qualify this by saying I don't think they'll win as a Champions League. But going into a Champions League game, I'm confident with half a dozen guys. We've brought in Kieran Tierney. We've lost Taylor, so that's +1. So we're up 1. And we brought in Nygren, and I don't know yet because I've not seen him in Europe. So, I'm on the fence with that one. And we need to bring in another 2 or 3 of that level of player that can play in the Champions League, JP. That's what we need. And the concern is both Inamura and Yamada, both players coming in from Japan, and Rodgers hasn't quite shredded it in the interviews, right? But what he has done is he's made it pretty clear that they weren't his signings. I mean, he even called Yamada a club signing last night. So that's where it gets a wee bit concerning, right?
It does. Yeah, it does, because we've seen this film before. And I didn't really like watching reruns of it. Certainly not from the first time, because there's a lot of trauma attached to that, where suddenly he's away and, then years later you sort of find out the reasons why. And I'm just sort of kind of thinking about this situation now and being like, how on earth could Celtic let it get to the point with a manager as good as Brendan Rodgers that we are going down potentially the same path again? I hope we're wrong, and I hope that we're just doing the thing that you always say, like being hyper analytic about every single thing that's said by every single person connected with Celtic, whether it's a player or the manager or a coach, or comments from Peter Lawwell or comments from people at AGMs or whatever. Everything's hyper analysed, isn't it? But that is slightly concerning. But at the same time, you're like, well, Maeda wasn't Brendan Rodgers signing. He loves Maeda. So who's to say that Yamada doesn't come in? By the way, I've not seen everything or listened to everything. Have you asked Liam Carrigan about Yamada?
Yeah, he's written a couple of blogs as well. And he's one of the guys that people are focusing on the fact that he's had a bad season. And Liam's saying, you've got to overlook that. He's not become a bad player, because prior to that, he was very prolific.
And he's a Champions international, right?
Yeah, and he was on the bench actually for 2 games on the bounce since it became clear that we're going to sign him. He's been dropped, and he's been an unused sub for 2 games. Here's one for you, right? So again, I said it last night. I know not everybody that watches the Bulletin watches the match day stuff, but looking over that kind of period since Ange came in, right? Here's a list of guys that might or might not have been, depending on what you think, Champions League players in terms of that criteria that we try and set to say, are you happy with this guy going into a game? So there's quite a few of them. I'm going to read a list of these guys out, and they could make up a starting 11. And my question to you, JP, is, are we better? The team that we have now, the strongest starting 11 just now, would they beat this mob? I'm going to read it to you, right? So we've got Joe Hart. Obviously, he's retired, so he couldn't have played in the game. Juranovic at right back, Greg Taylor at left back. We've got Starfelt and Ayer. Ayer was still in the building when Ange came. He never ever played for him, obviously. We've got Matt O'Reilly. We have Ryan Christie. We've got Carl Starfelt, I've mentioned. Nicholas Kuhn, Leo Abada, Giacomakis, Kyogo. And if you're looking for somebody on the bench, we've got Odsonne Edouard as well. Aaron Moy as well is a guy that retired. That group of players versus the group of players that we've got now, and they all left in the last 4 seasons. What team's better? What team's stronger for you?
I mean, arguably the previous team.
Or the guys that have left.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you could dispute that. I mean, there's nothing to say that this team together with a couple of strong additions can't become a really good team. But it's all about, there's so much question marks over everything now, in terms of the fact that it's Brendan Rodgers' last year of his contract. There's uncertainty there. We're playing Russian roulette with the Champions League qualifiers for the first time in 4 years. So that has its own kind of hurdles. I don't really know. I think the team and the squad definitely need reinforcements. If you were to take Brendan Rodgers aside right now and say, are you happy with, if the season was to start this weekend, would you be happy with what you've got? Surely you would say no. I mean, there's another club that have got a European qualifier on Tuesday. Imagine that was us right now.
I know.
I would be concerned going in. If I was going in to play them if I was going in to play Panathinaikos right now, even with our squad that as it is won the league and won the League Cup last season and got out of a Champions League group, I would be concerned if we had that qualifier on Tuesday. All they've got right now is just things that they've put together and signings that they've made who have barely played together. So I would be concerned if I was them having that on the horizon. So we've got another month before our one, pretty much. So we've got to prove that we can get into a better shape than they are with a few days away from their first qualifier, you know.
And the Panathinaikos jerseys are just different class as well, by the way. All Bailey comes in, I think Nygren will smash it in the hoops. So do I. And then you give credit to the people who were behind that move. If it's a club signing, then so far it looks like a really good move. Loopy33 comes in to say that we should just go 5-3-2 and forget the wingers. We've only got one. Liam, I'm bringing Liam Devine in because, we've replaced Kyogo with Yamada. Yeah, well, Kyogo left in January, though. And we've replaced Kuhn with Nygren. Nygren doesn't look like he's going to be playing right wing, though. This is the thing. We've brought him in, and he looks like that creative midfielder that we were crying out for last season, the end of last season, particularly when Rio never played. Can we establish that this board doesn't care about competing and work from that? We waste time going round the houses on it. The reason I read out that list of players, JP, was that, right, okay, we know what the model is. We bring all the guys in, kind of low cost. We make a profit on them. We move on. The only two that I mentioned that didn't happen on, Joe Hart and Aaron Moy, because they retired. I get all that. And that's fine. But there's a second bit of that equation, which is you then replace them with quality. So Jota was in that list as well, but we brought him back, obviously. Jota leaves and we just buy loads of wingers and just hope one of them works out, and it doesn't work out because we've still got them. We've still got Tilio, Palma and Yang, right? And then it takes until the January before we find Kuhn, and it takes him 6 months before he finds form. So that wasn't a great move. It wasn't like a strategic move that was really, really well executed. And that's the issue for me. So the Matt O'Reilly thing, we lose Matt O'Reilly. Price-wise, it looks as though we're going into buy quality with Engels, and obviously he's, I think, had probably a difficult first season, a season where not everybody's convinced that he was worth the money. But in terms of a 21-year-old, compare him to other 21-year-olds at Celtic, and he's head and shoulders above them all, quite frankly. However, the conversation I'm having today, the Leeds tagline, is whether or not Engels has actually lost his place. So when we go into the Newcastle game, JP, and I appreciate you didn't see Nygren last night, but he was excellent. And just a friendly, I get it, but it was away from home. You're playing the Portuguese champions, and he was excellent. He really was. He was brilliant. So for me, Engels' his biggest champion. I'm playing Nygren alongside Hatate and McGregor in the midfield against Newcastle on Saturday. That, Engels is now benched.
Well, I mean, that's certainly a controversial thing to start. I mean, admittedly, Saturday's only a friendly, but when you fast forward to Flag Day in a couple of weeks' time, that's going to be an interesting first 11 on the team sheet to see who gets the jersey in that game, because, well, it will say a lot, because remember, what was the season early on where did we not start David Turnbull instead of Hatate at Pittodrie? That was
Brendan Rodgers' return. Turnbull started the first. It was the first game was Ross County, and Turnbull gets the man of the match. Mm-hmm. Rio Hatate's on the bench, and Rio then had to fight his way into the team.
Well, then maybe that's good for Engels then that someone's come along to. Mm-hmm. I mean, there might be an element to Engels where he's like, well, they paid this amount of money for me. Of course, I'm going to get a game. Maybe someone needs a rocket up their proverbial to push on and give an extra 20%. If you're only given 70 or something like that, you want the extra 20% from someone. Well, put someone else in the team that's going to challenge them, and I would be happy if that level of competition took place. The one thing I haven't spoken to you about is Kvistgarden, the mysterious non-signing of Matthias Kvistgarden, because he's got to Norwich for 7 million.
Yeah.
I can't believe for a second that if we wanted him, we wouldn't have paid 7 million for him. We must have pulled out, or either that, or he said, "I don't want to come to Scottish football." But I mean, we've publicly courted that guy for about 2 years.
I know,
and then just let him go to Norwich. Like, no disrespect to Norwich. I know we've paid 9 million for one of their strikers, but we shouldn't be losing out on signings that we really, really want to Norwich City.
If that's the guy that Rodgers. If Rodgers wanted him, JP, then I've got a major concern about that
exactly. Yeah, me too. And that should be a definite presser question for anyone that's got access to a press conference. Be like, can I ask you about Matthias Fiskard and what went on there? Because now that he's
why did we bow out? Why did we bow out with the race?
Because like he wouldn't, because obviously he would have said previously, he'd be like he's a player with another club, it'd be disrespectful to speak about it, blah blah blah. Now he's actually signed for another club, so I don't think I wouldn't be wrong to be speaking about it. So it would be interesting to hear if we were actually ever in for him, if we had scouted him, if he turned us down, if I mean, because 7 million should be nothing to Celtic. If we wanted to spend 7 million on a striker, I'm pretty sure. Well, we've spent 11 million on a midfielder, spent 9 million on another striker. We got 10 million for Kyogo, and we've not reinvested that in a striker. So,
absolutely. I mean, even if you just look at the Kuhn money, 16 million quid. 7 on a striker, and you've still got quite a lot to play with to get another winger. The way I look at it was kind of twofold. So I didn't buy into either of the two narratives that kind of like came out of that story. The first one being Celtic have had their pants pulled down because we didn't know about this clause. The other one,
no way did we not know it. I'm sorry,
for me, JP, because I think it was described as embarrassing, wasn't it? The night that was broken as a story, as a thing. Oh, there was this clause 6.9. It's embarrassing for the other clubs who were in pursuit of him. And I didn't buy into it because you know how agents work, and you think to yourself, well, Fiskard's probably thinking, right, okay, I can go to Scottish football and play Champions League, or I can go to English football, which is where I want to be anyway after Celtic. Not necessarily Norwich, but he wants to go to English football. These guys have got that ambition, haven't they? So they're thinking, right, why a stepping stone? And by the way, I don't see Celtic as a stepping stone, but a lot of these guys with absolutely no connection to the club do. And he's gone to Norwich. So the other side of me thinks, was it agent motivated, or was it embarrassing for the clubs in pursuit? The only way you'd find out is by asking that bold question, JP.
I'd love to do it. I swear to God. If you get a press pass, I'll take it and I'll go along and I'll ask that question.
Oh, brilliant!
I will go along specifically to ask that question because it has bugged me, that whole thing, because I'm just like, I mean, he looked good. Like, he does look like a really good player, and I just don't understand. Like, he fits the profile in terms of everything that we usually do in terms of buying a player at that level. Like, if we were going to get, I mean, I thought we were going to get into sort of 15 million for the guy or something, and then
they were talking about that. They were talking about Celtic smashing the record transfer fee.
Yeah, and then he goes for 7, and it's just like, what? This doesn't make any sense.
We'll pick him up next season for 3.5. He'll do a Sydney Van Hooijdonk.
But there's also I don't know how much credibility there is to it, but apparently Celtic have talked to the agents of Odsonne Edouard. I read that yesterday on like the BBC gossip page or whatever it was. Could be absolute tosh, but I mean, I think it. Well, I would be into it. I don't know if I'd be into paying 15 million for him, but
what I found interesting about it, Brendan was asked that question last night actually, and he threw cold water on it. But who knows? Who knows, right? Because obviously Brendan signing. Brendan pushed the envelope, 9 million quid to buy a guy in an academy.
2018.
He was 19-year-old. He played a few games for Toulouse. It was like it was a big ask, and he got it, and he got his player. And I asked the question yesterday, and I don't know, 95% of Celtic fans on the comments anyway were saying, "Nah, we didn't want him back." Really, 95%. Oh, aye. I mean, even now, if I ask the question, and I will, would you take him back? Let us know, yes or no, in the comments, and we'll bring them up. But I kind of reframed the question when I put it out on the socials, because what I said is, would he improve the starting 11, the current starting 11? Because my answer to that, JP, is yes, he would. He absolutely would. If he was at Celtic Football Club right now, he'd be getting a game ahead of our 3 strikers, right? And the 3 strikers that we have, of course, are Osmond, which is maybe a bit unfair. I can see him getting loaned out. Kenny, who, by the way, was very good last night. And Ida, who is the first choice. So there you go. Kevin's coming in to say, yes, Eddie is a major improvement in striking options, whereas Kieran Deeney says no chance. Milder Glove says nope. And I'll keep bringing them up just to get a sense of what you think. Jay Conley, Jay Larkin, I don't really agree with the Eddie down tools narrative. I spoke about that on Tuesday. I'm a bit like that myself. We were awful that year, but I'm sure he was still top goal scorer that season, not the same player after he got COVID. I was having a look at this, Jay Conley, Jay Larkin, because, he wasn't at his best. He scored 20 goals. He had COVID twice that season, and there was a lot of other stuff, hanging around the club.
I don't think you can hang season 2020, 2021 on Odsonne Edouard. I mean, that is some heavy lifting going on there, if that is what you're doing.
There's a few above him, mate. There's a few guys above him. Bolingoli is top of the tree. Whoever signed off Dubai, they're up there. Lee Griffiths couldn't get himself fit. That kind of thing is kind of forgotten, about when we're talking about Odsonne Edouard. So no, he wasn't at his best, absolutely. But it's a down to tools narrative. No chance, says Douglas Hughes. And this is kind of like we were getting. You still believe in COVID? Well, he failed the test. He failed the test twice. There you go. I'll try.
At least he was tested.
Yeah, at least he was tested, yes, by an independent tester. Absolutely. Oh, we could go back on it. There was quite a lot of things went wrong in that particular campaign. And Edwards, I think that a lot of Celtic fans wouldn't take him back. Daryl Brockie. Sorry, that's
by the way, saying that I want Odsonne Edouard isn't saying that I don't have faith in Adam either. I'm just saying that I would rather have 3 really strong strikers.
You just want to work with me on the advert, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. No, there's no doubt about that. That's a shooty in, but it's not a nostalgic thing wanting Edouard back, because it's not like you're wanting to get a guy that's in his early 30s or even 31, 32. 31, 32-year-old Odsonne Edouard, and a club's wanting 15 million for him. I'd be like, nah, you can sing for that, but he's 27. He's had a hard time. He fits that profile. If we hadn't had him previously, he fits that profile of someone who's done well, scored in the Premier League, and has maybe just lost his way a bit and needs to, do a Scott Sinclair or a Chris Sutton or any other number of players that you've had down in England that have come up to us and been reinvigorated.
That's a great shout. Going back that far to Chris Sutton. And I'm not saying that Eddie was better than Chris Sutton, but that is a fantastic angle to take it from, JP, because Matt O'Neill was good at this. Matt O'Neill was very, very good at getting a player where their career had kind of gone off-piste a bit, right? And the 3 that I can think of, there might be more, but the 3 I can think of, you've already mentioned Chris Sutton. I always go back to the 2000 FA Cup final where Chelsea win 1-0. It's Chelsea v Aston Villa, right? Chelsea win 1-0. Gianfranco Zola scores the goal. Chris Sutton and Alan Thompson are not part of the teams, their respective teams, because they've had a bad season after big moves. So Tomo goes to Villa after Bolton. I think it was like 4.5, 5 million. And Sutton goes to Chelsea for 10 from Blackburn. And both of them have poor seasons. And they're standing in the players' lounge having a drink after the game. And everybody's celebrating. And they're not feeling it. They're not feeling it because they're thinking our careers have kind of gone off the track. By the 6-2 game, Chris Sutton's scoring goals and setting up goals, and Alan Thompson's in the stand on the verge of signing for Celtic. And Martin O'Neill turned the guys around, and they both talk about it. And also there was an element of that with John Hartson, because Hartson had failed 4 medicals. And so there was real doubts around Hartson in terms of what he was going to achieve down south after a really good career. He was the most expensive teenager in British football when he signs for Arsenal for £2.5 million. He scores in a European final. He scores in a Super Cup. He plays in a Super Cup final. So he had 2 European finals under his belt before he leaves Arsenal, playing with Bergkamp and Ian Wright and all these guys. but it had kind of gone with the fitness thing. People were doubting his ability to get through a medical. So Martin O'Neill signed him without a medical. He just said, I'm going to sign you. You're not going to have to take a medical. And it was that belief, JP, that got the three players' careers back on track. And Edouard, I've already said that I think he would improve the starting 11, so I would. Brendan Rodgers last night said it's not happening. So who knows, though? Who knows? Stranger things have happened. Martin Gallagher, you're in. Board signings, 1 in 4 or 5 hits. They seem happy with that policy. I just think it's a dangerous game because I think we've done really well, right, to put out Nawrocki, Lagerbielke, potentially Palma, Tillio and Yang. But then we're putting fillers back in. So you're getting rid of those guys, but then you're bringing in fillers rather than Champions League standard players, JP. So, yeah, it's great, but you don't want a bloated squad, would be my point. We've also got Cell 88. Now, I'm going to have to say credit where it's due here, by the way, right? I was up at Celtic Park with a couple of different pitches, which I'll not bore you with. And at that time, and this was several months ago, Celtic, the guy up at Celtic, I won't name him, but the chap up at Celtic kind of had this idea already, JP. So Adidas might have helped him execute it, but it was this individual's idea. You know, I'm talking about the launch with Primal Scream and all that stuff. He had that idea. So that was definitely a Celtic idea. I've got to give him credit because he mentioned it at the time. Marcus O'Hara, are you suggesting Peter Grant with a tactics board at half-time? No, thanks. No, I just think if it's content...
We've not spoken about that, have we?
Grant, well...
In the last 56 minutes, like, what's that referring to?
I am demanding a tactics board with Peter Grant in front of it. Absolutely, yeah. I want to see that.
Oh, right, on the Celtic TV, that's what he said.
No, I mean, even just the studio vibe, it's far more slick, it's more professional, it's far more watchable than just, oh, here's a rerun of the podcast. And I think last night's rerun was Kieran Tierney. And it's like, no, they're separate. That's a different type. This is match day. Give us some match day coverage. Talk to supporters clubs. You're in Portugal, you know. You've got some great footage of the squad going to the Estadio Nacional and all that kind of stuff. And fair enough. But then make sure that you get good content on match day as well. Mr. C, you're in and you're saying if we follow up last night with another sound performance on Saturday, we could be well set to start the season with, let's say, 6 straight wins. Then we're more in the game. Go beat on Saturday. Go beat. Behind closed doors. No, I think also what happens is we're trying to take as many positives as possible. And another one from last night, JP, going back to that Midtjylland game, was the performance of Dane Murray. So the first thing I noticed when I seen him this pre-season is the physical transformation, by the way. He's been working on the upper body. There's no doubt about it. He's a unit. He is a unit. And Brendan Rodgers rates him really, really highly. We keep battering on this show about youth development, giving youth a chance, bringing them through. Are they good enough? He's fancied. He is definitely fancied by Brendan Rodgers. He got his Champions League debut last season. Only 2 appearances, terrible injuries. 2 seasons of his football career lost through injury. He's going to be the backup for CCV this season. I'm pretty confident of it. He was good last night. Some really good passing moves. And as I say, physically, he has definitely worked on that aspect of his game.
Well, it would be about time, wouldn't it, that a youth player comes in and stakes a claim because they're so few and far between. I would love the idea that would save us money and going out and having to buy another centre half because there's probably still a lot of people who think that we do need to go and buy another centre half. And maybe we do, especially after losing Nawrocki and Lagerbielke to a permanent and a loan. So that's thinned it down in terms of the centre back. So you're only really one injury away from the centre back situation being a bit troublesome, especially when it comes to Europe or whatever. You don't want to be caught short with that position in Champions League. So maybe there is an argument to be bringing in somebody else, whether that's an experienced head a la Jeffrey Schlupp, but a centre half. I don't know. I don't know, but I would like to think that Dane Murray would be somebody that if he is going to get a chance at that level, then give him a deal and keep him in the squad and have a chat with him about his pathway, because you don't want to end up like Stephen Welsh. Stephen Welsh is 25 now, and his career is just I don't really know. I don't really know, and now he's got injured again, which is unfortunate for him. But it doesn't seem to be that. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't feel like it's going to happen for him at Celtic. I just don't have that feeling for him, which is a shame, because obviously he's been around for a long time and all that sort of stuff. But is he going to be the answer? Is he ever going to be a Celtic starter? Probably not. Just the same way as Yang's probably never going to be a Celtic starter. So if he's wanted by Norwich or whoever else, then it probably makes sense to see what we can make on him. I mean, I would imagine we'd be able to at least get our money back on Yang.
I would think. You know, this is the thing as well, though, JP. I think we paid 2.1 for Yang, right? So we'll probably make a profit on him, because we bring him in. He gets more international credentials whilst he's at Celtic. He makes his debut and plays in the Champions League. So in terms of value, you know, you're looking at that. He's not depreciated in value. I don't rate him. I don't think he's a Celtic player. But if you're selling him to Norwich, then I would say that you're looking to make a profit on 2.1. On your Stephen Welsh point, by the way, I'm thinking back to the Cork City game where him and Duhan get in a bit of a pickle and basically sell the jerseys, right? And on that occasion, I'm looking at it thinking, him at that point on the pitch, him and Duhan were the two most senior Celtic players in terms of games played, you know, experience. And you're still making mistakes like that at 25. Now, I know every player makes mistakes, JP, but it's just like, at this stage, you want a player to come in and you're thinking, right, they're steady, they're reliable. You want Welsh to be, I think, like your Tony Ralston style, that level. Because, I mean, last night, he came in and he played well, right? And he's a backup. He knows it. We know it. Alistair Johnson knows it. That's the way that...
Always fit as well, by and large. Ralston, very really not available.
Yeah, reliable, low maintenance, that type of player, right? And you want Welsh to be that guy, and he's not. He's just simply not that guy. So, you know, you could be up against Bayern Munich next season, Real Madrid. You think of some of the really strong teams we played in the last 3 seasons. We could face them again. Are you happy with Welsh there? The answer's no for me, right? And it's nothing personal, and it's not about, all right, he's not fashionable and he's not got a continental name. He's just not good enough for me to play at that level. So it's unfortunate, and I wish him the best. I hope that spell in Mechelen will result in a permanent move, maybe to Belgian football for him, and a new start.
Obviously, the pool of playing for Celtic is huge, and you and I will never be in that position where we're a Celtic player and we're in that position where it's, you know, kind of like limbo period where you're like, you don't know whether to stick or twist. And I don't know, I just think there surely comes to a point where, for the good of your career, and be like, you could go and play 5, 6, 7 years somewhere else and play week in, week out. And yeah, it's not for Celtic, but I just think that there's got to be a point where you've got to make a decision on it. Because I mean, it's a short career, and like I said about Dane Murray, you just don't want it to end up happening to him as well, where he's just this guy at 25 and kind of a little bit in no man's land when it comes to where his position is at the club. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we do go after another centre half, because that would then indicate where we think Dane Murray is in the picture.
And how can we not produce a centre half? You know, it's like, you think about the amount of centre halves we've signed, going right back to Simunovic and Benkovic, and, you know, constantly bringing in centre halves and not producing one. I don't think, if we put Stephen Welsh to one side for a moment, maybe since McManus. Have we produced an academy graduate that's played 50 plus games for Celtic centre half?
I was thinking that Owen O'Connell, but then he didn't play that much.
Didn't play a great deal, did he? Darren O'Day, Steve McManus kind of style. That's the last time, really. So, yeah, it's time. It definitely is time. And I hope it works out for the kid, because, as I say, that the 2 years of recuperation and all that, and the worry and the concern must have taken its toll. It would have taken its toll on anyone. We have touched slightly on the Primal Scream thing. We can't go through a Thursday. It would be remiss of me to go through a Thursday without bringing this up. JP, I think the club absolutely nailed it. They smashed it with that advert. It was fantastic.
Really, really good. I was speaking to Brooke Combe and Rhiann Downey at Transmit at the weekend. They were on our stage.
Oh, brilliant.
So they were asking for you. And Rianne was amazing. Like, obviously she's part of the Paul Heaton thing now, where she covered Rotterdam and Don't Marry Her as part of her set, which, I mean, she's got poetic license to do that, considering she sings it on stage with the man himself. So she was great, and Brooke as well. It was really good to see her again. You know, she's just off a support tour with Lionel Richie, and voice sounded great. But obviously to see them in the advert alongside Bobby Gillespie on the decks, John Collins with the Predator in the background. Did you see that?
Oh, I never saw the Predator. I didn't see that.
No, he's got a pair of Predators hanging in the background, like between him and Charlie Mulgrew.
I missed that bit. I missed that.
The fact that, like, because there's a reference in there's a reference about Larson playing pool because he has a pool shark and used to play, and John Collins is like, oh, he's still got it. Because I'm trying to remember who it was that Larson used to always play pool with.
Was it not Paul Lambert? Paul Lambert,
that was it. Yeah.
One of the videos, mate, that's behind me, Lambert is the guy.
You see them playing pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see them playing pool together. So I thought it was really, really well done, cleverly done. Kind of the sort of thing that we've spoken about on here, like it's kind of, why don't they do something like that? And then they've gone and done it. And McCool's as well, which is a great pub, and Nick and all the guys there are brand new. Got to know them from working shows there and stuff like that. So, it was really, really cool, and just further sort of cements that kind of, why is it everybody that supports Celtic is in music is like quite cool, you know? I was speaking to a guy, from an American band called No Fun, new band, like I don't think they've done anything here in Scotland yet, but they were kind of sort of like Rage Against the Machine, a bit of that kind of vibe, but maybe not as angry, but definitely that kind of vibe. And I was talking to one of the guys, and he was asking about Celtic. His name was Louis, and from LA, but now lives in Nashville. And he was asking about Celtic, and I didn't know about how Celtic and why Celtic were formed, and it totally blew his mind. And he left site for a bit to go after their set. He left site to go and wander around. He just wanted to go and wander around Glasgow because he'd never been before. So he's wandering around the Gallowgate and goes into the Barrowland Market, comes back wearing a "You'll Never Walk Alone" t-shirt with half Celtic colours, half Palestine. And
I wonder if they got that from Simon Weir. I wonder if they got that from Zico's.
Potentially, yeah. Potentially. I didn't ask him what the name of the shop was he got it from, but he came back and he was just like fully out of his mind on Celtic. Like, he was like, I'm going to just eat this up. He was like, I need to get a proper top as well. And that was quite cool to see that the impact of Celtic on one guy was cool in a day. You know, like he knew about Celtic-ish. It's kind of like when I spoke to AJ Tracy about him. Like, he'd done his homework on Celtic because of Ange Postecoglou, because he was a Spurs fan, and then he was like, right, I need to find out about Celtic, and then he was like, whoa, this is some football club, by the way. I'm all about this, and then he's cutting about with a Celtic trackie on at Tuts. So fair play to him.
I love that, JP. And you're going to have to reveal to me, because my site's not that good. What's the playlist? What's the set list behind you?
It's Underworld set list from Saturday night. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. I got to work those two shows with them last year at the Usher Hall, but genuinely Saturday night, I didn't know how big a crowd they would get, because it's Transmit. You don't know really how it's going to go. Biffy Clyro were headlining. Fontaine's DC were on before Biffy. You know, I was a little bit worried about whether, because you know, it's not really, I didn't book them, but like, I'm looking after them at the stage. So you're kind of like, oh, I really hope that people show up. And it started to get busy before they came on. And then it was kind of like a mixture of like old heads and like the young team had come up from the Radio 1 Dance 10, you know, wee guys with their tops off and all that. And I went out and stood in the crowd for a bit and just looked around, and I was like, this is like a lot of the people here probably didn't even realise what they're seeing, but these guys are like an English Kraftwerk or something, you know, they're like the proper like dance music legends. And then I said to Dumbo, who was like the stage manager, big Rangers fan, I was like, oh man, this place is going to go absolutely tonto for Born Slippy. And he was like, oh, they're not playing that. And I went, aye, they are. It's the last song in the set. And he went, oh, I didn't see it on the set list. And it's because it says Nux. Like, so it's Born Slippy brackets Nux. So that's what they've got on the set list. And I went, I'm definitely playing Born Slippy. That'd be absolutely insane if they didn't play that. And then when they played it, I was side the stage just looking out. I've got a video of it. It's just amazing. Just the sea of folk, just everyone singing like every word. And it was mega. And they were buzzing about it. They came off stage. They did a runner. They had to go straight off the stage and into a van and away because there's like a vehicle curfew. As soon as the headliners finish, no vehicles can like move around because obviously the general public are all leaving. So
I didn't know that.
If you don't get out straight after their set, then you have to wait like 45 minutes to an hour until it's cleared. So they were like, either you come off stage, get in the van and shoot away, or you come off stage and then you sit in like a wee tiny dressing room behind their stage for an hour or so. So they were like, they're in their late 60s. So they just got in the van and shot off. But I had some chat with them before it, and it was good to see them again. And I was just absolutely buzzing because the last time they played a festival in Scotland was Tea in the Park 2003. And they were meant to play Playground Festival in 2021, but it got pulled because it was them, Kraftwerk and Chic, but it got pulled because of COVID, obviously. I remember seeing that booking and being like, what a 3 nights of music that is. That's a great booking. Kraftwerk, Underworld, and Nile Rodgers and Chic. But you've got to go way back to 2003. I was watching Coldplay on the main stage, and then I looked at the lineup and I was like, wait a minute, Underworld are on right now. And I went, I like Coldplay, but I need to see Underworld. Went over to the NME stage and arrived at the NME stage when King of Snake was just starting. And I was like, I've made the right choice. This is where I should be. And I told them that story and they were loving it. So.
They would love it. It's great to hear your musical tales, JP, as always. And
met Rowetta as well.
What did you?
Yeah, she was singing with Shed 7 on Sunday night.
Shed 7, by the way. They've had a bit of a re-emergence as well, the Sheds.
Brilliant. I mean, I've always loved them. I saw them I said to Rick Witter, I was like, I saw he's at the Barrowland in 1998. And he was like, oh, what, that venue, man. I was like, yous are too big for it now, because they always play the Academy or do 2 nights at the Academy, which is 5,000 tickets. So Barrowland's is only 1,900.
There's obviously, it was prior to the big Oasis thing, but there's a lot of 90s bands now that they're getting a second wind. Cast, selling a lot of records. The Charlatans have just released new music, which for an old guy like me, JP, is brilliant because I'm a Celtic da and I was there first time round and I can see them second time round. But no, listen, we waited until after the 1 hour before we even spoke about music. So nobody can complain. We spoke about Celtic for 1 hour and then we kind of veered into the music chat. And I love that side of it. So an absolute pleasure as always. Thanks everybody for getting involved, and we will be covering the Newcastle game at the weekend. If I can get someone to cover it for me, I'll be there. So hopefully it's sunny. Thanks everybody for your support as always. If you want to come and see us talking to Manny from the Stone Roses and Primal Scream, there are some tickets available. The link is under the video. All that's left for me to say, JP Mason, once again, thanks for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.